are coming back to familiar territory, from the explosive high of the Mysterians to the down-to-earth action-packed humans against monster kind of story. It's kind of jarring when you think about it, but at least something came out of it, right? Welcome to the Brumakian podcast, an episodic review series where I can review anything but not everything. On this show, I cover anything in entertainment, whether it is giant monster movies, anime, and video games. Last year, Toho released the sci-fi film The Mysterians, and it's making its rounds in the West. At first, they were really getting into this whole sci-fi genre, but yet they were met with some certain circumstances. Shortly before, or after, The Mysterians, Toho is approached by American film company ABPT Pictures. They approached them for a possible co-production of a monster movie on television, and they accepted it. Television started gaining attention in the early 50s, and most thought it would kill the movie industry. Spoilers, it didn't. ABPT requested that Toho split the movie in 3 parts, each 30 minutes long. However, during this Japanese-American co-production, ABPT Pictures went bankrupt and went out of business. With the film in jeopardy, Toho decided to pick up the pieces and produce the film by themselves. But again, there is a problem. Tomoyuki Tanaka, when the film was still expected to be released on television, purposely gave the movie a low budget and low production value. When ABPT went out of business, everything was completely spun on its head. It didn't help that Toho, in the middle of production, decided to make the film into a theatrical release. Ishiro Honda, the movie's director, had this to say: "This change was forced on us. We were shooting things so that they looked big and powerful on the small screen, but suddenly we had to take the same footage to try to make the same impression for the big screen. It just didn't work that way. And on top of that, we had been shooting based on the premise of making it into 3 episodes. Now we had to somehow combine it all into one continuous story. Of course, it did not work. We had a very hard time adjusting to it. The desk site planners just did not understand how the filming site worked." Well, regardless, Varan, the Unbelievable Giant Monster, that's what I call it by the way, was released in Japan on October 14th, 1958, to a low and mixed reaction. Anyway, here is the plot synopsis. A prehistoric behemoth is awakened from hibernation due to a U.S.-Japanese military experiment on its watery lair for economic means, where it proceeds in attacking Japan. Or as I like to call it, the usual Tuesday. Like seriously, this is starting to become the norm for the Japanese people. Every time there's a monster going around, they're going to be like, "Ah, man, is that time already? Alright, let's go." Anyhow, with that out of the way, here are my final thoughts. Folks, the title of the video doesn't lie. I actually fell asleep during the climax. Good lord. Yeah, we're back at the basics here. That thing that Ishiro Honda said? Yeah, he speaks true. While the story is interesting on the surface, the execution leaves a lot to be desired. The characters are completely flat. No one seems to be putting in any effort except for the military personnel. Let's not to say that all of it is bad. Far from it. There are some effort in terms of practical and sound. For one, Varan is an interesting mix of what came before. And while I don't like Eiichi Tsuburaya's cutting corners on some scenes during the climax, the effects are still on par with Godzilla and Rodan, and even with an injury to Haru Nakajima's testicles, he still continued to suit act. No, I'm serious. It's right when Varan arrives on Haneda Airport and the truck explodes underneath him. A man shouldn't have to see that no matter how protected you think you are. Holy fuck, I absolutely adore this soundtrack. Varan's theme is haunting, bombastic, and well-constructed, and I love the addition of the choir. Too bad I can't play it right here because fuck you YouTube and your stupid copyright system. It sucks. Anyway, Varan the Unbelievable Giant Monster is not that I would call a classic. If The Mysterians was Ishiro Honda's favorite movie, then this has to be one of his most disappointing ones. With that said, the movie earns my final score of 58 flying squirrel monsters out of 100. That will about do it for this episode. This has been Demetrius signing off, and I need to find my spacesuit. I hear there is another invasion coming. Gotta be ready for this one.